What is going on, Stonebladers? We won the die roll, so we are going to be on the play against Mono Red Prison again. Some back-to-back action, just in case you couldn't get enough of it last game, or last recording, last upload, whatever it's going to be. Here we are, going to be on the play against them. Now, I didn't realize that we were going to be playing against them. This hand isn't the worst. It's alright. It's not throwbackable, in my opinion. Just because you have Batterskull in this scenario doesn't mean you need to throw it back. We can get rid of it with a Brainstorm. That's all we would need. We do have Force, plus some blue cards to pitch it to, but first turn we can do Island and Ponder, so we'll keep this. I didn't know what opponent was on as well, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I don't like any of these against an unknown. I mean, this is going to take forever to cast. Well, not forever, but I mean, I do have the mana for it, but aside from that, you know, I already have 2 lands in my hand, plus a Batterskull. Like, I need some type of other action. Brainstorm would be good. Not a Flooded Strand, but that's just the way it is. Sure. Their turn. Okay. And this is one of those games where sometimes Mono Red Stompy, Red Prison, whatever you want to call it, will just get you. Clearly, I pretty much have to Force of Will this. These two are going to be cut off, which means not only do they not produce mana, they do nothing. I'm pretty sure I've never actually seen that where if it's in play, I don't think I could even pay 1 life and sacrifice it because it says all lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. So that's an ability, so I can't even do that. It just sits there. Like, they're literally nothing. And that means I would have to draw just a plains or just an island and do that multiple times just to be able to cast anything. So, like, literally locked into it. Have to force this. Now my hand looks really good. Okay, let's Ponder. Good draw. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Well, it's very easy. I'm definitely keeping this. So it's going to be Jace, Swords, and Spell Pierce. Obviously, Spell Pierce is great against them. Now, this is actually a very difficult decision. Given the fact that they're playing this, they probably have Magus of the Moon / Blood Moon. So it really depends on what they play. If I play a Volk, that means I can pretty much I can use Spell Pierce without getting rid of the swords and the Jace under it. However, if I play like a Flooded Strand and, you know, I want to be able, and they play a Magus of the Moon, I can't do anything, and then I have to actually shuffle to get planes. So I think overall, I liked giving myself the most amount of utility, so what I did here is play a Flooded Strand. Because usually if someone's going to be forcing like a Blood Sun, like, you know, they're going to want to, there's higher chances that they're going to go for even more. And of course they do have it. Okay. Okay, so what I could do here is I can fetch. Well, obviously I'm fetching either way. The thing is, do I want to fetch for plains or do I want to fetch for island? If I fetch for island, then I pretty much have to Spell Pierce it because then I won't have any plains. If I fetch for plains, then I have to literally, the only thing I'd be able to cast moving on is going to be a Snapcaster, is going to be a Stoneforge, and a lot of my 1-drops, I will not be able to cast, let's say, Counterspell, Narset, Jace, True-Name, and those are pretty important. Not Narset, but a lot of those are pretty important. That also means that I have to draw it naturally, which you never know how long it's going to take. Given that fact, I decided to at least pierce this. So I got Island. I just feel like that wasn't a very winning line, despite the fact I know I can use this for something much more powerful if I just fetch for a plains. It's just going to be very difficult to draw a flat out island or just another plains if needed. Oh boy, I laughed so hard when that happened. Like, it's gonna be so that, because that was literally my thought process. And I wouldn't probably play it any other way, just because, like, I mean, what, there's 3 of these in the deck, and I mean, yeah, drawing an island isn't going to be as bad. So I had 3 plains and I had 4 more islands, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7 cards out of 49. So that's what, 1 out of every 7, or 1 out of 7. so to speak. Yeah, so every 7 cards I should draw 1. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. Aside from that, I have to wonder if the land that I draw is going to actually pan out. Yes, I will have brainstorms and ponders, but it was overall that was the decision. Here what I want to do is play Arid Mesa. Simply if they want to play a 3rd Blood Moon effect, I can crack it and get planes. And as expected, there you go. So, I mean, this I would have been able to Spell Pierce, but like I said, it's their hand pretty much just happened to work perfectly for the hand that I had. Even though I could have saved the Spell Pierce and actually pierced this, you know, it would have been much more difficult to find the actual land that I wanted because they move pretty quickly, and that's just the line that I chose there. That's fine. Okay. And we still play it out. We always play it out. Unless you're playing against me and you want to concede early, I mean, that's fine. You know, people do that all the time. Not sure why. Sure, I guess you can play that one too. And we are still playing. Let's see what else they can do. They're being very... another reason why you're not going to want to concede, aside from the fact that you never should unless it's for a strategic reason, like hiding information in your hand and you 100% know you're not going to win. They're being very trigger happy when it comes to their ancient tombs. So like, if I get a true name here, they could be in some big trouble. Even though they're going to have a quick clock when it comes to their ultimate, this is going to ping me a turn, then 2, then 3. But I also do have Batterskull, which allows me to get life. Should it hit? That allows me to gain life. That's good. Sure. Play everything out. Let's play Batterskull. Okay. Sure. The good thing about one of the million reasons why you never want to concede is you want to see how your opponent is going to play things out. How are they with their planeswalkers? Do they make good decisions? I don't play this deck, but just looking at it, one of the best lines here is going to be dealing 4 damage to this, and then it's just going to sit there and do nothing. Despite the fact that, yes, they're not going to be able to ultimate soon. I kind of like that one in my opinion because this is just going to lock the game down. This is going to ping at me. That is a good line, and they chose not to do it, so... And now they are getting something else. Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, so now I can attack, so I guess that's what they wanted to do. That's fine too. But have you ever played against someone before and you're like, wow, this person is very meticulous with what they do? For example, there was a game I played against Rug Delver, and I'm like, they're being very suspicious when it comes to keeping their lands out. So like, I feel like they have a stifle. Like that's usually the sign of a good player because they're going to make sure they're never going to fetch when there's no lands up because then obviously they can't stifle because I could obviously fetch in return. So is this person making meticulous moves? Are they kind of sloppy? Are they a little loose? They aren't the tightest in the world in my opinion. So it's a great time to be able to gauge not only the cards that the opponent has, but how they're playing them. All right, that's good too. That is actually a really good draw. We can attack, so we're going to sit here. Sure. They were probably just gung-ho on doing that, but I guess that works too. Sure. And look at this. I mean, they're going crazy here. Let's look at this. Okay, that means nothing. Sure. They're at 4 life. What else they got? Nothing. And okay, no, they got something else. Cool. See what you got. And they thought it's over. It's not. Let's respond by plowing our germ. And just for craps and giggles, I'm going to counter this. Alright, but look at how ridiculous this is. They're at 4 life. If I had another Snapcaster, they would have lost the game. Because they have 2 cards in their hand, and unless one is a Simian Spirit Guide, there is nothing they can do about that. I simply wouldn't have Spell Snared that, simply because I wouldn't have had a Spell Snare. And then, unless they, let me think. If they played this, I'm guessing they probably would have just maybe killed that immediately. And then, like, when you keep playing, you allow your opponent to make some really bad moves, okay? In this scenario, there was the option where if I did have 2 Snapcasters and they go to kill this, I attack them and I win. And, like, out of nowhere, a game you should have had pretty much, like, 2%, 1% chance of winning, you end up winning. It happens a lot. Like, when you play enough games and it's a lot higher than 2%, that's why I always play everything out. There's so much information that you can get from your opponents. Sure. Let's attack them. Unfortunately, they have a Blood Moon in now, so they can't go all trigger happy with their Ancient Tombs. But my goodness, they were at 2 in a game that should have been nowhere near that close. Anyway, so now that we know what they're on and we know what they're up to, let's move the sideboarding, because I got the sideboarding down pretty well when it comes to this one, especially on the play. We have a lot of goodies against this deck. Let's move to the sideboard. All right, so against Mono Red Prison on the play, which is a big deal, they have a lot of creatures. They didn't show too many. I think I saw Rabble Master maybe on a Chromox. I don't know if that was game 1 or 2, but I'm bringing this in either way just to deal with their creatures. Spell Snare on the play is awesome. It hits a ton of things like Chalice. Usually decks like this just love mulliganing into turn 1 Chalice. I've played against so many decks like this, and I don't know why they're just so insane on getting that turn 1 Chalice. On the play, they're even more crazy about it, but when we're on the play, we want more ways to deal with that, so we have 2 Spell Pierce and 2 Spell Snares. Anyway, Disenchant's great. I like Containment Priest. It does trade with a lot of their creatures, and it pressures their Planeswalkers. Clique's great. Force of Negation we want, and this is going to finally come in. This is for a ton of their Chalice of the Voids. This is for tokens if they have any, plus it can also get their Chromox, so this can do a lot of damage. This is pretty much like replacing my second Disenchant, which was a Nature's Chant. So 7 cards coming in. Back to basics, out. Narset, out. Narset, out. Mountains. We saw enough of those last game. Let's see. And let's move these over, actually. What's this? Okay. Make it easier for you to see. Come on. So 3 cards. Actually, let's see. Containment Priest can be iffy. So given the fact that I already have a ton of them, what I can do here, I think I took out 1 Jace on the play, and then I took out, actually, let me take this back. 1 Jace, and then maybe, I think 1 Ponder. Ponder is not what I want to do. Oops, and then, sorry, 1 more. Brainstorm. There we go. To make it a little less 1-droppy, the reason for that is because on the play, I'm not usually going to want to Ponder until I have to. I want to hold a Spell Pierce or Spell Snare. If I have a Force of Will, then I will go crazy on that. But I like having a lot of these cards. A lot of these cards are much more helpful than my cantrips. I still have 6 total. But if you wanted one of those, you could probably take out a Path if you're playing it and return one of those. But there's no hard rule in Magic where you can't take any of these out. In fact, I find myself doing it more often just because I have a lot of good cards in my deck and in my sideboard against a lot of decks, actually, especially a lot of these other, 27 color Yorion Oko Snow Control decks. Anyway, so that's about it. Let's move to game number 3. And before we do, I am going to change something up when it comes to being on the draw. I take out 1 Spell Snare, and then I think I put in a Brainstorm, because you can at least use that at instant speed. So that's going to be the difference on the play and the draw, but we are going to be on the play now for game number 2. All right, so our hand is not really that great. Once again, we have another Batterskull, which we keep seeing to get the Boomerang Batterskull in our hand. Batterskull is like, dude, they're going to be playing a Rabble Master. You know you want to play me. I'm a great card in this matchup, right? No, Batterskull. When I get Stoneforge and get you, then you're a good card. Anyway, aside from that, if they play a Haymaker here, well, first turn, like, I could Island and then possibly Brainstorm into something, but still, it's like force pitching Jace and not a whole lot left, no fetch lands. I am not liking this hand, so I threw it back. Okay, this is a little bit better. Let's look at it once again. Let's move these around. Move you around. Move you around. Looks good. So I like this because I can be aggressive with my Brainstorm. I can do Island, I can Brainstorm, hopefully get some lands, and then second turn Stoneforge. The reason you want to aggressive Brainstorm, usually on turn 1, is if you want to respond to something. And even if they don't play a card, you Brainstorm on the first turn simply because you want to have both your mana open for Stoneforge on turn 2. Anyway, this is much better. We're getting rid of Clique because True-Name is 100 times more powerful. Island, go. All right, that's perfect. Let's Brainstorm in response. Depending on the cards that we get, we can pretty much choose to ignore that. So it almost turns out to be pretty much, what's the word? Kind of like one-for-oneing themselves. Or not one-for-oneing. It's pretty much just being a dead card. So they lose out on a card. If we can choose to avoid cards, our hand gets much better. So anyway, with that being said, I want all of these. And the only card I don't want is Brainstorm, simply because I can't cast it. So it's going to be Brainstorm on top, and then like any... It doesn't matter, because I'm going to be drawing the next card, so probably some land, sure. And as always, it's very important the land that we play here. What I want to do is do Flooded Strand and get Plains. This will at least guarantee that I have Plains, Island, okay? That's going to be important. Obviously, if I play Plains here and they Blood Moon, then I'm like locked out of, you know, having any of those. So I'd rather at least start getting more of my basics here. So given the fact we need to play Stoneforge, I am fetching for a Plains here, and we're playing Stoneforge. Batterskull. Chromox. Another great engineered explosives target. 2 for 1, kind of. So they do have Rabble Master. Hello, we've met before. It's been fun. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a Thumb War. Okay, so what's the plan going to be here? Let it resolve, of course. Let's see what they choose to do with their Planeswalkers, which they've been making some interesting plays with. And actually want to kill this time. Now they actually want to kill my creature, which I thought was a very big mistake, given the fact that I know it's in my hand. Next turn is just going to be a True-Name, and then we're going to attack and kill it, so that's fine. So this is really good, because next turn I can play True-Name, I can fetch for this, then we will have Island, Plains. All of our mana will be covered, and then we have Council's Judgment backup, and if we draw another land, we can play a Batterskull. I don't think I would have done that there. That's a dead draw, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. If we had to, we could always deal with the Chalice of the Void to unlock it. We probably won't need to, but I'm not worried about that. True-Name Nightmare, pretty much for this deck. Hey, you want to cast that? Feel free to. It's up to you. Wouldn't be bad for a clock, right? What else do they have? Pretty much does nothing at this point. Now we can analyze, if I had a Force of Will and a blue card, would I force this? Absolutely not. I mean, this is costing 3 either way. I have more than enough mana, and everything that I have right now is, there's nothing that's really going to bother me with. So once again, this is pretty much like them playing a card. They just lose the card on that. Like, they lose 2 cards on that now because they have more than enough mana. They lose a card on that. This is one of the biggest reasons why I don't like this specific deck. It can ramp, it can do fast things like you saw in the game 1, but outside from that, unless they got something good going on, it's harder for it to grind, obviously. Although they are a prison deck, so they can totally do that, but not the type of game I want to be playing. Plains, pass. One more land would be great. Okay. What do you got? A lot of clicking. On 2. Okay, so what does this stop? This stops... actually, I wonder if this... Does Chalice of the Void... Because since everything costs 3, would Chalice of the Void look... Say if I had like a counter... Say this was this was in play and I play like a Snapcaster, does it look at the 3 casting cost that I use to cast Snapcaster, or does it look at the 2 of it on the card? I'm curious about that. But either way, I didn't know about that. I didn't even think about that until now, so I don't know how that interaction works. Either way, I'm thinking about the cards that cast 2. We have Counterspell, which is whatever. You know, there's one of those in there. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. I have Snapcaster, which there's nothing great going on in my graveyard in the first place. And then I have Stoneforge. I don't know if I said that already, but I already have my equipment. And given the fact that there's not many other 2-drops, a Jitte, and yeah, so I mean, I really don't care about this. The reason why I'm discussing this, I know I can't force of will it, but there will be a lot of games where people are just like, oh my god, a Chalice on 2, I have to force it. They don't think about the actual process of, is this going to affect me or not? The answer is no. I've actually done this before once, where a person was tapping their mana. I think they were playing like a post deck, like Titan Post or something like that. They were doing all this fidgeting around like as if they were trying to cast something for 10. It took like 30 seconds. They stopped. They cast a Chalice on 1, and I was like, oh, it's a Chalice on 1. I play a lot of 1-drops, and I had a Jace on board too. And I'm like, oh, I got to counter that. So I forced pitching a blue card, and then they play All Is Dust. My Jace is gone, everything else is gone, and I ended up losing that game. That's why I'll never forget that. That's why mistakes are really good, because when they suck, you typically don't forget them, and that makes you a much better player. So back to this scenario, if I had another blue card, I still wouldn't force it. You need to think about that when they're casting cards like this. Anyway, I think you get the idea. Land there would be nice, but that's not bad. I mean, I can still pitch that to force, so that's actually really good. That's good now. So now blue cards that are 1 or 2 are just force food. Sure. We'll make it work. And I still have no use for Council's Judgment. I want to save a Council's Judgment for a Ensnaring Bridge. Probably a Planeswalker that they tick up on. That's perfect. Let's play that immediately. I know I like attacking first and then playing. I just didn't want to forget because it's just a solid, such an important card when it comes to hard casting Force of Will. Okay. I think they're just playing out their land simply because if in case they get a Ensnaring Bridge is my guess. Hey, look, a 2-drop. So I'm not sure how the interaction works. Like, if I just played this just for Snapcaster, would it get countered? Because I think I'm not sure if it just looks at what Snap is, or if it looks at, like, let's see, additional maintenance may be paid with any colored mana. For example, a spell that would cost to cast costs 3 to cast. So I think it would look at the 3. Am I right about that? I'll have to look it up. If someone knows, please explain that in the comments so everyone else will know, and I can pin it to the top when everyone's like, this is how it works. Because in this scenario, I mean, I could simply pretty much cast almost anything, right? I could cast this for 3. I could cast this for 3. This is already 3. I could cast, well, yeah, I could cast that for 3 because it wouldn't counter that. This is a very unique scenario. So like I said, if you know how that works, just let us know down below in the comments. Always learning something new. Anything else? Nothing. Perfect. No? Oh, wait, never mind. That was, I was on my turn. I was so busy looking at the whole Chalice Trinity. Let's definitely... Here they go again with their Ancient Tombs. See, like, if they kept that in there, that would have been 2, 3, 4. Like, they didn't need to go nuts with that. They could have held that in their hand. But anyway, they're just doing so much damage to themselves. Anyway, we're fetching. We're countering this. Because now they're on a 2-turn clock, and we're pretty much guaranteeing our win. And I will tell you why. Unless they do something with Karn and get Lattice, I don't think they have enough mana for that. And even if they did, this is going to be cut off. Yeah, so here's why forcing this guarantees our win. Simply because next turn we attack for 3. They're at 2. All they have is 2 mana, which they can't even use anything with Trinisphere. And even if they did, say they somehow figured out a way to play Ensnaring Bridge, I have councils for that. If they found a way to play any type of Planeswalkers, I have a councils for that, and I attack them and kill them. So by forcing that, nothing crazy happens, and we are guaranteeing ourselves the win, unless there's something I am not thinking of, like they pull a Black Lotus out of their sleeve and say, play this, and I'm like, no, Trinisphere. Anyway, so that was game 2. Like I said, the only difference between game 2 and 3 is I'm going to be switching out a Spell Snare for a Brainstorm. I like this on the play. It's just another way to help fight Chalice of the Void, because decks like this are just so crazy about getting them out all the time. Anyway, Chalice of the Void is a great card against Stoneblade only if you have a specific type of hand. There's been so many games in the past that I recorded where I even just completely avoid it, like turn 1. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll play around it. Anyway, let's move to game 3. All right, so game 3, we're going to be on the draw, which means they're slight advantage just because they can ramp really well. But this hand isn't the greatest in the world, but it's definitely a solid hand against this deck. First and foremost, we at least have like Island we can ponder, which we're probably going to do unless I get like a Spell Snare or something. We do have Force of Will backup, and we have plenty of cards to pitch Force to, like Force to Brainstorm. We got a redundant one, and we should be able to at least find mana, given the fact that we can counter anything we want, and then we can move from there. So I kept this. Oh my goodness. Mistake number 1. Okay. If you're ever playing against Stoneblade, if you're playing against Stoneblade and you're using a different deck, don't bring this in. This is just, you just literally lost a card. This is like the opposite of playing Yorion. Instead of starting with an extra card, you're literally just taking one away. I understand that Snapcaster is a thing in this deck, but it's very easy to play around this. In fact, I'm just going to use Snapcasters as 2/1 Ambush Vipers now, and they do pretty well at that, in case you've seen a lot of my other stuff. Anyway, that is just no. This deck has so many, Red Prison has so many ways to ramp and get card disadvantage as well, that having this as well, whether you draw it or you play it in the beginning, oh, that's just not good. Anyway, that's pretty much a mulligan for them. I'll take it. Yep, they love their first turn Chalice of the Void. And given the nature of our hand, we will force pitching Brainstorm and move on. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to be playing against me and you're not playing Stoneblade, play this, please. It's great. You'll be fine. You'll be down a card. Anyway, let's ponder. I don't want to Brainstorm there simply because it's not going to do any, much else if I don't hit anything. I'd rather actually, I take that back. Would Brainstorming be better there? No, Brainstorming would not be better there, because if I saw trash cards, I want to get them removed. There's a very easy chance of getting Brainstorm locked, so Ponder is the best scenario there. Now, let's look at these cards, and let's actually look at the how we want to put them back in our deck, because like I said, doing a Ponder incorrectly, you can lose the game. I kid you not, happens all the time. You can even time walk yourself, which is the next worst thing. So here I want Force of Will in my hand. They have a ton of early turn Haymakers. And by putting it in my hand, it's going to couple very nicely, whether it's going to be with Jace or Brainstorm. Given the fact that I have 3 mana here, Jace isn't going to be too far out of reach. Okay, so now we got to look at the other 2. What I ended up doing is going to be Disenchant on the bottom, Plains in the middle, Force on the top. The reason for this is because simply we're going to draw Force, and then next turn, if we draw Disenchant, we can play our Island, and then we can't use Path. So if they play a creature, we're going to pretty much start getting run over when we could have avoided that completely. So the absolute best way of doing this, like I talked about before, is going to be Disenchant on the bottom, Plains in the middle, Force on top. So next turn, that allows us to pretty much play our Plains, and that way we can at least plow something should we need to. Another way of ramping, so that's another card disadvantage. Fiery Confluence, okay. Force, very easily. And once again, this is a very easy Force pitching Brainstorm, simply for the fact that we know the top 2 cards that we have, and Jace, given the fact we get 1 more land because we got a Plains coming up, could be doing some monumental things. Brainstorm. Thank you, Force of Will. Now they only have 1 card, and we have, well, right now we have 4, but let's play Plains. See, just imagine that they play a creature next turn, and then we just have Island, Disenchant. It's like, well, that's great. Obviously, we can't have Plains and Disenchant in our hand, but having Plains first is the much better play. Okay, let's play Island. Now we would like a land. A land would be great. And I'm sorry to spoil it for you. Unfortunately, there will not be too many like amazing fireworks for the grand finale. It's not going to be a 4th of July finale. That's actually not that bad. However, I would not like pitching this to this, but if I have to, I will. So pretty much a Planeswalker is the only thing I don't want to see. Any type of artifact I have covered. I was thinking about, like before, I think the turn before this, I could have disenchanted this, but it's just completely useless. I mean, they have 6 mana, so there's no point in doing that at all. Teferi wouldn't be bad, though. Then I'd bounce it. Actually, if I got a Teferi, I would probably just tick up on it. All right, let's go back to our turn. Okay, so I'm not waiting around. I'm playing that because at least if they play a Planeswalker, I can pressure it. Like I said, the grand finale is not going to be all too special. Just a nice little lesson for you. They drew the one card. I think you know what it is. That I can't counter. I was watching a game today where it was 17 Snowco color, 17 color Snowco against Death and Taxes. Snowco had a Plague Engineer. It was named Human. Okay, Death and Taxes cast Athalia, which is a human, and the 17 color Snowco person Force of Willed it. They Force of Willed Athalia with a Plague Engineer that had human on it. I'm like, what is the world coming to nowadays? Is this the type of play that's become of control players nowadays? Forcing a card that's going to die immediately as it enters the battlefield? Okay then. So, speaking of amazing plays, let's do let's roll that beautiful bean foot. All right, I don't fault opponent too bad for this, but I've made some bonehead plays myself. This is the good thing when it comes to mistakes. You got to get them out early as possible. However, it's always good when opponents, get them out early on you to your advantage. So what they decided to do here is quote unquote try and kill True-Name. So they -3'd it. Chandra, Awakened Inferno, deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. Now, to someone who maybe hasn't played this as much or seen the interaction, this could actually look like it actually works, because the fact of the matter is that it's not targeting specifically, but still, what is it? Damage, equip, targeting, what's P? Not protection. I forgot what P is, but those are all the things that, so it can be blocked, targeted, dealt damage. So it's still being dealt damage, and it's still by this opponent. Someone who's not familiar with that interaction might think that it actually kills it, which it doesn't. An opponent was not very happy with that, okay? Right now it's on 11:05. I'm like, oh my God, please. I was like begging this person to please just play the game out. It's not like I typed anything, but I'm like, I know it's coming. Please continue on. And I'm like, oh, it took them about 30 seconds. They sat there for 30 seconds. It was just on 11:05, and then they quit. They had enough. I'm like, oh my goodness. I wanted to play that game out so badly. Obviously, next turn I was going to attack that. If I got a land, that was going to be great. I actually might have Fate. No, I don't think it would have Fate Seal. That definitely would have drawn 3 because I needed an extra card for Force of Will. But there could have been so much more fun fireworks, but they go ahead and they concede. You know what the really weird thing about them conceding was? After they conceded, they drew like 10 cards off the top of their deck. I'm like, if you want to see what the cards are to be able to win, you don't concede. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to look at the cards, because people love doing it, and they say, oh, I should have kept playing. Yeah, you should have. You shouldn't have conceded, or as I should have, could have, would have. Never concede until the game is over unless there's a strategical advantage to it. They have no strategical advantage to this aside from the fact that I just won. I probably would have won anyway, but that's my thoughts. I can't stand when people concede. It's just, even when I win, it's such bad Magic play. Anyway, I think that's about it for today. We got to romp on Mono Red Prison thanks to some... I think some of the moves we made were pretty good. Like, the first game was iffy when it comes to that Spell Piercer. I don't like not spell piercing that, because the chances of us not only finding land but finding cards to go along with it would have been very difficult. They had a really good hand matched up against mine. That's just the way it works some ways, but that was 2 games in a row against Mono Red Prison. Regardless of how many more times I play against them, I'm probably not going to be doing many more videos. It's pretty straightforward when it comes to beating them. They get their games in every now and then, but overall, our cards are pretty good against them. So thank you for watching. As always, it's another one for the good guys, and have the best day ever.